Hello, my name is Daricia. I'm a final year PhD candidate at Clemson University. Today I'll be presenting work done alongside my co-author Bart with our paper entitled Many Islands, Many Problems, an empirical examination of online safety behaviors in the Caribbean.
First, I'd like to introduce you to someone. This is Jason. He's a Trinidadian and an advocate for the LGBTQ community. He challenged the government of Trinidad and Tobago's for laws that were particularly harmful to the LGBTQ community. Once his case was public, he received hundreds of death threats on Facebook. These threats they started from online interactions, but they impacted Jason's ability to sleep and being able to interact in the real world. He had to move to protect himself and to prevent his roommate from being affected from physical violence. So although interactions start digitally, they manifest in ways that could affect your ability to be safe in the post-digital world. And in small knit communities like the Caribbean, threats to your safety and to the safety of your family could escalate very quickly. Yet the design of safety tools have largely been led by US or EU narratives, executed by US or EU researchers, yet shipped globally, where the contexts are different. As a region, the Caribbean has had very few pieces of research in this area, very few say in the design process, but technology is shaping their economies and affecting people's ability to remain safe.
Therefore, the goal of this work is to have a deep understanding of how people experience, evaluate, and mitigate online threats, specifically looking at emerging markets like the Caribbean. To gain a better understanding of how people perceive, evaluate, and mitigate threats, we adopt the protection motivation theory. So, at a high level, PMT suggests that people's prior experiences impacts how they evaluate and ultimately mitigate harms.
To break it down a bit, people evaluate threats by considering the extent of their vulnerability and the severity of the risk to answer the question of whether or not they should be worried. Then they consider whether the safety tools can help them to take effective action to protect themselves. We consider these factors and the influence of trust to understand how people are motivated to adopt protective behaviors that will help keep them safe online. We apply structural equation modeling to test this concept among multiple types of threats, such as digital security, threats related to access and disclosure, harassment-related threats, and threats that start from online interactions but spill over into offline contexts. To test our structural model, we ran an online survey across 9 different English-speaking Caribbean countries throughout the region. To better contextualize our results, we interviewed regional experts. Here's what we found. Unsurprisingly, the majority of participants reported having an experience that threatened their online safety, with the top 3 experiences ranging across different types of threats. In particular, the most prevalent threats were related to targeted advertising, unsolicited content, and compromised login information. Our structural equation model revealed interesting dynamics. So first, we find that trust plays an important role in adopting protective behaviors. But this is particularly important for harassment-related threats. For harassment-related threats in particular, how much people trust a particular platform plays a direct role in their intention to adopt protective behaviors. So regardless to how well they feel a particular technical intervention might work, their trust in that platform would help to determine whether or not they would use that particular safety intervention. And this has implications for social media platforms. In addition, we find that perceived severity plays a more significant role in adopting protective behaviors for more technical threats. The threats related to persons' online security, for instance, or for threats related to the access and disclosure of information, how severe that is has a direct role in predicting whether or not people would use safety tools. But for tools for threats that were more non-technical, for instance, that had more of an emotional component, like harassment-related threats, and threats that spilled off into the offline world, such as threats related to discrimination, threats that led to discrimination, for those, so this it didn't really matter how severe per persons thought it was, but more so thinking about how well those safety tools would actually help them in keeping them protected. Now that we have a good understanding of all of the insights and findings gained from this study, where do we go next? So one of the things that we found that there might be a need for more tailored tools that provide more support versus strictly providing punitive options. For instance, blocking or removing content that might not necessarily be enough to keep persons motivated to mitigate these risks, thus providing more tools, especially for particularly severe threats, might be worthwhile to pursue. Also, we find that many of the tools are available across the board, regardless of whether or not persons need more resources. So we suggest departing from this type of approach um, to provide more of an equitable solution so persons who may need more resources to achieve a fair outcome could do so. Thank you for listening to my talk so far. I encourage you to reach out and to read the full paper. And again, thank you for your time.